Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the special board meeting of the Beverly Hills Unified School District. The date is March 4th, and the time is 1:37. And I would like to ask for an approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Thank
I'll
you,
second.
Dr. Stern. And the second?
It's Dr. Russell.
Yes, I will second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stewart. I get the approval. All those that favor the agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. We have an agenda hearing period this afternoon, and I'm going to call on Janet Hassan, if she's here. Is Janet here? I understand you have ceded your time to Mr. Curtis, so I'm going to ask if Mr. Curtis is here. He's going to be speaking on topic F2, which is an item that would be in closed session, but he's going to speak on it this afternoon. Mr. Curtis, could you please come forward? Thank you.
We don't have a timer. Oh, we do. Okay. Great. I already do. Okay, thank you. Smart.
And you have 6 minutes, should you desire them.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus. Good afternoon, Mrs. Marcus, board members, and Acting Superintendent Hasty. Since the installation of this new board, I found myself here more often than I could ever have imagined, which was never. I thought my school board speechifying days ended in the early 2000s, and while I never applied for the job, it seems I've been unofficially labeled a spokesperson for concerned parents in the district. But thankfully, I'm not here to talk about the same situation I've spoken to you about before. Today, I'm here because I've been contacted by several parents who have asked me to bring to your attention a potential candidate for the superintendent position. Someone who not only understands education, but also understands the district, its culture, its expectations, and its challenges. His name is Dr. Alex Chernis, and his career in education began right here in the BHUSD as a middle school math teacher, inspiring inquisitive young minds with his passion for mathematics. Recognizing his leadership potentially advanced to become the K-8 principal of Hawthorne School, where he took the school from last to first, achieving the highest API score in our district, and that led to its recognition as a California Distinguished School. His commitment to excellence got him noticed and put him on a path to other roles at BHUSD, like Director of Human Relations and Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, where he successfully managed a $330 million school construction program and established the district's finance committee and the Basic Aid Special Reserve Fund. And most importantly to him, he met his wife, who taught preschool special ed here at Horace Mann in Beverly Vista for 15 years. Beyond Beverly Hills, Dr. Chernis served as the Chief Financial Officer for LACO, where he oversaw the budgets of 80 school districts, totaling over $14 billion, ensuring fiscal responsibility and sustainability. His expertise in financial management is complemented by his academic contributions as an adjunct professor at the USC Rosser School of Education, where he has taught doctoral courses in school economics, and in an interesting plot twist, actually taught our current acting superintendent, Dr. Hasty, who, when applying to work for our district, reached out to Dr. Chernis for a recommendation. Alex Chernis demonstrated his leadership skills as the superintendent of the San Marino Unified School District, and during his time there, San Marino was recognized as the top academic achieving district in California, a testament to his dedication to pursuing academic excellence. His peers acknowledged his outstanding contributions by nominating him for Los Angeles County Superintendent of the Year in 2018. Most recently, he has been leading the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District, where he continues to advocate for student success and community engagement. But beyond the impressive CV, what has brought him to the attention of the parents is his deep understanding of our community. He understands the culture, expectations, and challenges of Beverly Hills, having lived and breathed our district's values throughout the years. I want to emphasize that my suggestion today is not a critique of acting Superintendent Hasty, whose efforts during this transition are greatly appreciated. I am unaware of his intentions regarding the permanent position. However, in light of our district's fiscal responsibilities, it would be prudent to consider identifying candidates such as Dr. Chernus, who has improved academic achievement everywhere he's been. And by doing so, we could save ourselves the significant costs associated with external search firms, ensuring that those funds are directed where they are most needed, toward our students. The future of our school district is of paramount importance to all of us. By considering potential candidates familiar with our community and with proven track records, we can make informed, responsible decisions that benefit our students and stakeholders alike. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more public comment. It's on topic F4, and Janet Hassan, you would like to speak on topic F4. And you have 3 minutes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I feel like it's like coming home now because I see you guys so often, and I appreciate the time. I didn't prepare anything. What I wanted to speak about was, and I hope this is part of the topic, but with the CTE programs, this whatever's happening with wanting to put it under the BHEA umbrella, it seems that this has happened kind of undercover. I only am hearing about it because of issues that have been happening in the CTE program. The CTE classes are some of your most successful and popular. I think there's such a value to focusing on technical education and this whole learning by doing idea. I'm not sure why we're trying to put it into this place of education as far as like English, science, culinary. The culinary teacher meeting with the science teachers seems like kind of ridiculous to me. I know you can bend it to like a food science, but that's not what this class is. That's not what's made it so successful. That's not what's made it so popular. So it's really disheartening that these successful programs, that there's a shift that's happening with them. And so I'm trying to understand why. I came to at the last special board meeting talking more about Mr. Carey, about the timing of this, and how Mr. Carey had pushed back against the CTE being combined under the BHEA umbrella. I don't know, at the time I felt like maybe it was very financially driven. There's been a lot of things about how this has taken place that have been worrisome to me and a little bit more undercover and not as transparent. I worry about making these decisions because of finances. I have asked for over a month to try to get an understanding of the CTE budget. Ms. Marcus, I sent to you, I think a month ago, asking to put it on the agenda so that we as a community can get a better idea of what is going on with the CTE funding, where is that money going? I think it's very important, and I am requesting it again, a presentation of that so that we can all be on the same page. Because once again, I think these programs are very successful, and I'm not sure why we're trying to change them in my eyes, it seems like it would not be a good move or a good fit. So I really would like to request to look into it a little bit more. Once again, I know I've said it a bunch of times, but I have a child who's already going to be gone. Like, where's my time? So this is because these programs have impacted my children, immensely. I want it to continue to go on impacting others. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the consent calendar.
Thank you, Dr. Smyrna. I have a second, please.
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Savali. Okay, I will take the first motion, the agreement with Maria Ott. Would you like to take to talk about the agreement, or?
I can speak a little bit to it.
That's what I would like to do.
It is a one-day cost for $2,500. Dr. Ott, again, is a USC professor. This is her work. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
All those in favor? No, first we have to discuss it. No, I didn't get an approval for the consent calendar. That's what I
Oh, yeah, yes,
Yes.
correct, you're right.
No, we did the agenda.
We did the agenda, we're on the consent calendar.
Yes.
I thought we approved
Did
it.
the consent agenda.
Just did.
Now I asked for an emotion on Dr. Stern and Mrs. Sabat seconded it.
Right,
And
Now I
so
need
we approved it.
approval.
Or you're asking if there's any discussion on the motion.
Yeah, we're on
We should do that before we say all in favor.
calendar.
Okay.
Right, but first we have to discuss it, and then we're gonna.
No, this is just the, oh, well, then you want to pull all the items.
Yes.
Okay, then we will pull the item, we will do number one, but then we will need a motion. Thank you. We need a motion for the agreement with Maria Ott, and now we will then, and I need a motion to approve, and then we will go on, okay?
Got it.
Okay, all those, I mean, who would need a motion for, so we're approving the consent calendar, we're pulling items 1, 2, and 3, so we're without the items on it, actually, okay? So now, agreement, I would need a motion for the agreement with Maria Ott. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion for the
Thank you,
approval.
Dr. Stern. Okay, and I need a second.
I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Okay, now we will discuss and bring it up, please, so we can discuss it. Thank you very much. You're welcome, thank you.
I can discuss it, or do we have questions from the board regarding any of the items?
Okay,
Maybe first discuss it.
Yeah, I can discuss it.
Tell
I
us
will-
what- tell-
Exactly. So Dr. Ott, USC professor, one of her areas of expertise is running board governance workshops. We are getting one of the best to come in here, and I didn't put an exact date on that right now, but the cost for that one day for her to come in would be $2,500. So it is an honor, I'll just say, to have her come in and work with us, and that'll be a good exercise for the board to go through since we have new board members. I'll go on to, let's go to number 3 really quick because they kind of coincide with one another. Dr. Vivian Ekchian.
you want to do them both as one?
yeah, we
I've only
could.
approved- We've only approved so far number 1.
Yeah, so let's stop with Dr. Ott then and see if we're
We'll
okay.
come back to that one. Well, it might be tied in together. Well, let's see what the board has to say. Mr. Stewart?
Again, I'm not against consultants and definitely people to guide us in the right directions, especially for new board members like myself. I feel that we're in a transitionary period. Obviously, it's agendized. Certain other things that we're going to talk about in closed, that I think that doing these things is not a bad thing. I just think that it's a little early in the journey right now, that we should table this and focus on the things that we know we need to get done. And once those are accomplished, then we can revisit this as the complete team moving forward, and then bring this back onto the calendar and see if it fits at that time.
Okay.
Judy?
Mrs. Manicherry.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm okay with moving it down. First of all, Dr. Hasty, I want to acknowledge you. You, as I said, first to the crowd, I'd like to apologize for being late. I had a work deadline, so I'm sorry that I missed the initial portion of public comment, and I will certainly go back and listen to it, and thank you for joining us. With regard to the consent calendar, you guys know me, I'm a little bit of a stickler on process, and I don't like to approve of anything significant when it's not out in the regular public open session. And so that's my first issue with these 3 items, is that it's not following our normal course of business. Notwithstanding that, Dr. Hasty, I want to acknowledge you because I understand that you are stepping in and stepping up in a little bit of a bumpy time. And so your efforts and your desire to unify this board and make sure that we are all moving in the same direction with the same mindset is something that I very much appreciate. I do agree with your statements, Mr. Stewart, that, excuse me, it is a little early because I think that we have about a month of hard work ahead of us before we see the light of day of, okay, now looking forward, where are we? Mrs. Ott and Mrs. Etchian, or maybe I should be calling them Dr. Ott and Dr. Etchian, sound great, and I would welcome their oversight, but I wonder if maybe we should table it and then revisit it when we're ready to have those conversations. I mean, I'm open to hearing what the board has to say. I always think strategizing is a really good thing, and actually we didn't do it last year, but we had done it more in prior years where we really focused on our strategic plan, and as a board, what were we gonna ask of our administration? And I think when we don't do it, it's really hard for our cabinet to, one board member saying this, one board member saying that, and how can we expect them to succeed when we're not giving them proper group feedback? So I welcome these professionals. I would like to meet them. I would like to work with them. I don't mind pushing it off by a month, something like that. Tell me what you're thinking.
One consideration, these aren't time certain. Approval of this does not lock us into a date. And again, what it would do would be allow us to create a purchase order and encumber the funds to utilize it for these purposes. So we could, essentially hold on the actual services, but in the meantime, once we push the button, these people would be ready to go and we could move forward.
Got it. Well, I'm going to reserve my response until I hear from my colleagues to see what's on their mind.
Thank you. Dr. Stern?
Do you want to go first?
Come back this way.
Oh, okay. So several thoughts. First of all, when we look at the whole picture, we're having a lot of issues right now. No one is going to say we aren't. I don't know either of those two ladies personally. I do feel like we are very much in need of some guidance and some structuring and hearing from an outside perspective of people who know about this process. And then in terms of course, we are very conscious, we are cost conscious, and I understand that. When I think about that, we once, approved a $300,000 elevator repair, $600,000 for paving of soccer. So to have someone for $2,500 who is, I assume, probably has a doctorate, right? Because she's
Correct, yes.
USC. It just seems to me penny wise, pound foolish. I just can't see not doing that. However, I can understand that we do have a lot of actual logistical work ahead of us. Is it an emergency right now to meet with advisors? No, so I can totally respect that. But I guess what I'm reacting to is I would caution everyone to handcuff ourselves when we think about prices, because all too often helping professions are the ones who take the hit, whereas we'll drop tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars for things that really don't impact the kids or us as people and social currency. So that's all I want to say, but I will respect that it is not an emergency at this point. Luckily, I assume these individuals are around and accessible, but I just want to make that point that we can't just only think about something we get tangible or concrete is worth paying for. There are people who actually spend decades. I'm one of them. Looking at the human interaction and how things work and organizational psychology, and it's not to be underestimated. We are missing that right now. And we need some guidance. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Well, I'll take the perspective of both sides. So I do believe it is important, to educate and to have the structure. I do think that right now we are in the midst of a lot that's going on, and I do agree to table it, as Mrs. Monticelli and Mr. Russell said. I do agree with Ms. Stern in regards to that at some point we need it. I think we should table it for maybe, I don't know what the suggestion would be depending on everybody, maybe a month, maybe something like that. And I'd also like to look into it and see exactly what she does, and maybe if there's a video or a sample of what she can do, maybe that'll get us to decide faster so we can see an example of what she has done. That would make me change my mind.
Or maybe a scope and sequence of objectives?
Yes,
Would that be-
because
sometimes when it's nebulous,
exactly.
it's not as appealing to
Yeah,
pay
because
for.
right now, I don't know her, I don't know them, and I don't know what they do, and I don't know, what they have done. So I'd like to see it, visit it, and maybe get some referrals and have some people, tell us how it helped them.
Understood. In the attachment, there is some level of scope and sequence. So if you want to review that, you can. So.
I would like to say a few words as I consider myself the elder statesman on the board. And I feel at this point, we need direction in governance. I feel that this is something that we are lacking. We don't have a date scheduled. It's still a couple weeks down. I know we have a lot of the things going forward that need to be attended to, but I think we need to know the governance procedures and how about it going forward, because there is so much that we are doing. So I understand you would like to postpone it. I personally feel that we should get it under control and start thinking about it now. I remember when I was on the beginning of the board needing that kind of guidance right away, and I really feel that we've already we're already into our 2 months into the session, and I believe that as new board members, and I'm being very respectful of the way they feel, I feel it would be very, very helpful. And I personally, I feel that this is something that we need, and if you want to wait, but we do have a possible date on the calendar for this as of March 19th.
And I want to say we're not.
I know we have it, and that's still more than 2 weeks away. Well, it's 2 weeks away from today. That's something that might be very helpful. So that is my take on this, and sitting in the position I'm in right now, I think we could use the help.
One other thought, the March 19th date we can push that easily. Yeah. And the second piece, this is, I'm doing this out of intention as to what is the best practice. So I'm recommending best practice. We don't get fully committed if we approve this now. Again, the dates are flexible and we want to work. We can bring back the discussion. For these prices, this is a really amazing deal. So I want to make sure we know that.
I have no problem with going to vote for it right now and approving it, and maybe if you want to push it off, but I do want to urge my board members to think about the fact that we do need to have this governance, and the longer we wait, the longer I think we would be without the guidance that we need. So that's just my personal take on it, and
I think Sigali has a comment. I also have a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I read the scope of service, but it doesn't detail exactly what would be specifically discussed. Yeah, what.
Are we talking about the board, which one?
Maria,
Maria,
yes.
Yeah.
And how long is it?
So the scope for her would be the one-day board governance workshop. She would co-present with Dr. Ekchian on that day. So she is coming in as a one-day presenter to support and do a co-presentation. Keep in mind, the board governance would run roughly we'd probably do 2 hours in the morning with a lunch break and then 2 hours in the afternoon. Again, just to work on our overall practices as a group. I want to also mention, this is just getting our professional norms in place, our communication strategies in place. It's not legally binding, if you will, in that way. So I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. But it is a practice. Whenever board members or leadership move, we usually would have this. Workshop.
Can I add something real quick?
Sure.
All right.
Mrs. Manicherry?
Okay, we're good. I also want to say that I think that looking at the temperature of our constituents, a lot of the community members, they are sensing that there are some issues, and that if we are, looking out to third parties for some guidance, I mean, we're all strong, we're all very competent, but I also think that may allay some of the anxieties that some of the community members are having. Like, okay, look, they're listening and they're seeking out others, who are renowned members of the educational field in Greater Los Angeles. I think that just from an optics standpoint, no one's going to disagree that we could not benefit from some sort of wisdom apart from us. So that's all.
Thank you.
Just one more comment. I'm going to vote no, and the reason is because the phrase professional norms makes me uncomfortable, And I have spent 2 years already going along to get along. And I won't do it anymore because I'm here with 2 years left. And I'm very clear about who I am and why I'm here. I'm here for transparency, communication, accountability, and results. And that's where I'm going. And so respectfully to you, Dr. Hasty, I cannot appease anyone anymore. I will gladly have a discussion about strategic plan and the goals of this board and where we're trying to go, but I do not want to be told how to speak and in what tone, and therefore I can't agree to this because I feel like the expectation of certain board members is to silence, or I'm just not here for any of it. So thank you, but with that said, should this resurrect itself in a different format and demonstrating that it is goal-oriented about where this district is going to go, I'm here for that. Thank you.
I appreciate that comment. One thing of the practice in developing this day will be a one-on-one meeting with each of you that Dr. Ekshian would have to figure out, again, what's your platform, what are your wants for the district, and then what are your expectations. So you would drive the content of this workshop.
Thank you, Dr. Hasty. Any other comment? Hearing none, I will call for the question, but I will call for the question by roll call. So I will call first for Mr. Stewart, yay or nay, however you choose.
Nay.
Yes, that's one yes.
Nay.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
This is for number one only?
Federal government does it.
Oh, yeah, okay, no. Mrs. Manicherry?
Respectfully, nay.
Dr. Stern?
Yes.
I would abstain because I'd pull it to learn more about it, but so far I don't know that much about it.
You're going to abstain? And I am going to vote yes. So we are at an impasse, so I guess it does not pass for lack of a majority. Okay, item number 2, agreement with Quarter Creative Legal LLC. I need a motion, and then we'll discuss it and so on.
I'll make a motion for agreement with Quarter Creative.
Thank you, Dr. Stern. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, and we will have discussion now, Dr. Hughes.
Again, Quarter Creative provides a multitude of communication services, has a background with working with school districts, and is very focused on supporting various. If you go to the website, you see Virginia Tech. They've worked with Wiseburn Unified. They've worked with Hawthorne Unified, or Hawthorne School District. The need for this at this point will definitely provide crisis communication as needed, and we would really essentially look at this $25,000 as a retainer to ensure that we have someone vetting communications and developing an overarching strategy moving forward with the board's input throughout that process. So again, in the current transition of things, this is another best practice that we would do. Typically for $25,000, this is as needed right now, and we definitely would be vetting some of those immediate communications. Going forward, I think this would be a good tester if we were to decide to go forward with this group. But I will highly recommend, due to the need is great, and this is a great company to bring in to help support this need.
Okay, let's start the discussion with Mr. Stewart.
Dr. Hasty, I just want to appreciate you verbally here for seeking out this person and bringing her in. Definitely her background is more than sufficient to do the job. My concerns are, and as we have a member of the media who's here in the crowd today, our communication strategy in the past few weeks, in my opinion, has been horrible. And the media has been neglected, in my opinion. They've not been getting the information that we should be giving them in the timely manner, or even just subject-wise. And unfortunately, even since this opportunity to work with this group has been brought to us, even since then, when there has been certain headlines in the media that we needed immediate attention to, the more focus was more on a broader future plan than the immediate needs. And that's a concern to me, that there's a contract here on the table that gets into these 3 points of cooling the waters and all these kind of catchphrases, but the only way to truly cool the waters is to be transparent and get the proper information out into the public. And that has not happened. And even in during this kind of interim period where we've had press headlines that needed answering, which even one of those which I brought to your attention personally, and then a response was created, but in my opinion, instead of it being what it should have been, which is a press release back to the media, it became without, not to sound mean, but it was a kind of a fluff piece out to the community, which then, of course, there's a disconnect, because if you're responding to the community on a headline from the paper and no one read the paper, then it seems like there's a crisis that doesn't even, exist, or correlate. And I think that alone gave me concern that this person might not be the right fit. So I'd like to hear the rest of the board speak, but for me, if I was to vote now, it would be a no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Manicherry.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Dr. Hasty, thank you for this presentation. I hear what you're saying. I just think it might take a minute for our person to jive with where we're trying to go. And we did meet her for a few minutes, but not for too long. I think that you are more savvy at media and PR than most people, certainly myself included. It's not my cup of tea at all. Looking at the contract itself, maybe we can limit it so that we are going to have someone who helps us in this bumpy moment. We can offer her a real opportunity to get to know us and try to gel with our voice, but we don't have to feel like we're spending a lot before we find out yes or no. And I do think a test run is important, considering what our considerations are for the future. And so I just would ask my colleagues if we could come to the table on this. Like, for example, maybe the consulting and strategy development, given her price per hour, could come down to $5,000 worth. Maybe the training and stakeholder, everything could get cut in half, something like that. And then it's really finite. And then we have a chance as a board and you as an administration to work with her, communicate with her. And then we'll know really quick, like, can we do this? Do we want it, And I think it's fair, and I think it's appropriate to narrow it down a little bit. What do my colleagues think?
Thank you.
So a couple things that I think. First of all, we obviously need a company. And second of all, I agree with, I don't want somebody or a company that's just going to make everything look pretty. I want us to be transparent. I want us to be real. As board members, we cannot say a lot of things, and we cannot respond in a lot of ways. So we do need a communication that is not just pretty. We need communication that is real. And as real as it can be. And we also need to make sure, because some of the media and some of the newspapers are not developing the stories as accurate as they should be. If they don't have anybody to communicate with and anybody to discuss what they're going to be writing in the papers, then they're just going to write what they think, so they don't know a lot of the information, because we as board members cannot speak on what's going on. So we do need a company. As this company, I'm not sure. As this price, I think it's a lot. And I'd like to do as needed, like Judy said, would be great, but I want a strong company. So not just to get somebody just to get. We haven't really had anything beforehand. I never saw that we had something concrete. So I do think we need somebody or a company that's very strong.
Dr. Stern.
Yes, I think we all agree that there's something that is needed for sure for messaging. Right now, the way I see it, we're at the end of the year. I think we have like maybe 60 days left of the school year, give or take. So it seems to me that like a set price of $25,000, let's say, is not really the best way to utilize the funds. But an as-needed basis through the end of the year, maybe targeting, certain issues that we are dealing with right now. I can think of at least 3 that have not been properly and transparently, communicated in a way that would have, I think, been very beneficial to all of us. So that said, if it looks like it's a very good fit professionally with this person, I don't see why a further contract could not be entertained for the coming school year. But there are some choppy waters right now and some real specific needs at our discretion that I think lends itself to this entity.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. When I first saw the proposal, I was a bit taken back by the price of it, and I was not willing to even think about something at that money. I do agree with my colleagues about the fact that we need some form or someone who can handle the communications right now, because we are like up a creek without a paddle, as far as I'm concerned. And so I would love to be able to find somebody that can handle the crisis that we're in right this moment. I don't know who it is. The fact that this was, and I appreciate what you've done, Dr. Hasty, in getting and your past experience with them, but as a board member, I somehow felt like there wasn't much of a vetting of this at any time. It came just, this is the one, that, and so on. And so I would have liked to have had more of a choice with some of what people could have offered us for this particular crisis that we're in. But I do think we do need to get somebody. I think we need to figure out, but Dr. Hasty, maybe you can figure out someone that can help us, but not at that price. I think that's, to me, it was money that was, yes, we need the person, but that was too much money at this point.
Yeah, one thing I can ask, we can approve a conditional improvement based on a lower level cost. So right now, I would say, if you don't want to do the full 25, we can come in a little lower and just say, we'll approve a cost of not to exceed 20. I'll just throw a number out there, and you can do that. And then I want to be clear, for the immediate need, and again, this is having someone essentially on a retainer, we can do quick communication. However, I will say, give you context, $25,000 for the cost. Typically, this individual, and looking at the grand scheme, and I will find more out there that we can compare, is roughly around $150 to $200 per year. So I want to be clear about the usage and what the actual costs for a contract of a caliber of this nature. So I will bring some of those back, but for the immediate need, we don't have to agree to do a full-on crisis communication plan, but I can cut it back just for immediate communications that would be really helping the leadership, the transitional leadership on internal communications, and then some of the external communications that are going out to Parent Square. If we want to go to the next level for media requests, definitely I would consult with you guys before we bring this person in.
I'd like to, what's something that's really bothering me immensely is Dr. Stern and Mrs. Marcus, you've both referenced the community and you know how they're feeling and that we're in a crisis. We're not in a crisis at all. There is no crisis here. If you look at school districts up and down the state of California, they have lawsuits. They have problems. They hire and fire people. Things happen. We're not in a crisis at all. A crisis is like everyone's dying. Like, that's a crisis. We're not in a crisis. So when you're talking about crisis management in the press, all the press wants to know is, what's the truth?
When
What's
we have
actually going on?
a senator calling us out and saying we can have funds when really there isn't, there
And then
wasn't
we should have
coverage.
had a
He
person
wasn't
respond.
even
Right, that's what
in
I'm saying.
charge
So
of
Instantly.
that.
that's one of 3 serious,
Sure, but that's not a crisis. That's a senator, in my opinion, who went on television, played politics, and we didn't have a response.
that was
And then when I
unfortunate.
asked about the
Yeah.
response, I kind of got blocked from it. So again, this is not rocket science, but I want to, when everyone talks about someone like me who like pokes the bear, it's like you guys are using language that's inciting people to say, what's the crisis? 99% of people in this city are not as engaged as we are. So when they see this video and they see our president going, we're in a crisis. Well, what crisis are we in? We're in a transitionary flux of some staff. But my daughter is at school right now. She's not in a crisis. She's having a great day.
Okay,
So I just think from a board level, we need to start telling the truth, and that we're working
Not my
through
perception, by the way,
internal-
just what,
Sure.
everything I'm getting. So
But-
it sounds
but-
like there's different people
and
who have different
trust me,
perceptions. People who talk to you are happy and everything's calm and
think that
fine.
everything is great. So
people
again,
who
but
talk
the
to
word
me-
crisis is an extreme word, and I don't believe that we're
Okay,
in a crisis.
we can retract crisis, but to say things are smooth sailing at this point are different from how they've been, that's all.
Different, yes, smooth sailing, that's an opinion.
Well,
Let's call for,
I'm so sorry. Who made the motions? Maybe we can amend our motion. Who made the motions for this one?
Dr. Stern made the motion and Mrs. Sabag seconded it.
Would you two board members be willing to amend your motion so that it goes down to 15K? And so that way, we will have someone who's addressing the news. And it's also a good interview for us to find out, hey, is this someone who can learn about this town, connect with our media outlets? So that way we have both the person filling the role, the needs being met.
Immediately,
Yeah, immediately. It's a more
That's
reasonable
what I'm
dollar
talking about when I
amount.
say the crisis.
Yeah,
Just to
current
clarify
needs
that
being
crisis,
met.
I need
Yeah.
to have something out
Yeah.
there that we're not getting right
Yeah,
now.
like that.
wholeheartedly agree. We've got 3,100 students who are being taken care of today by their teachers, by their administration, and their life is going on, notwithstanding what's happening at the top. And so that way, we are dealing with the news of the day and hitting a few different things at the same time at a more reasonable dollar amount. Are we good?
Ms. Manishari, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
let's
and
call for the question
Can
then.
I just say something really quick?
Well, I'd like to call for the question. If it's not going to change, I mean,
What do you mean?
Well, I think everybody knows how they're going to vote, so I think that we should call for the question.
Yes, but I just wanted to give one little comment. If we do what Judy was saying sounds good, that's like a testing period, so we can see how this company works.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we do have 4 months, so we might have 1 month, the first month, where she's spending a lot of time on things, and then it tapers off through July 1st. Okay. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
So we're agreed that the motion and the second were amended for 15K.
Okay, well, we have to amend the motion then to, you either.
Guide me on that one. So
Oh,
I
well,
make a
either
motion
that or
to
we
amend.
put it down and then make the motion to change the amount of the money.
So you could,
I withdraw.
you could withdraw, you could both withdraw and then remake it.
I withdraw the motion, I withdraw the motion for the approval of the quarter
Agreement with Quarter.
creative for
Quarter
the
Creative.
quarter creative, which was originally for 25,000,
And you wanna-
amending to 15,000.
Okay, and will
I
you-
second.
Okay. All right, call for the question, and I will do a roll call on the vote. Mr. Stewart,
Nay for no.
thank you. Thank you.
Yay for yes.
Well, okay. For
Yes.
15,000, okay, Mrs. Sabag,
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart, Dr. Stern,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So I guess they've given you some direction, Dr. Hasty, on that. And now for the last item on there, the agreement with Vivian Heckchian. Can I have a motion for the agreement with Vivian Heckchian?
I'll make a motion for the approval agreement with Vivian Ekchian.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
You will die for lack of a second.
I rescind my second.
You withdraw your second, Mr.
So let's keep in touch on it, please, Dr. Hasty.
Okay, so Doctor, I guess we will not have an agreement, and it's, for lack of a motion, we will not vote on it. All right? Okay, let's move on to resolution number 2024-2025-013, resolution regarding releasing temporary certificated positions. I will make the motion. Do I have a second?
I make a second.
Thank you, Mrs. Manicherry. Okay, just to explain, every year at this time, teachers who have been on temporary assignment are necessary to give them notice that they will not be reemployed. This is a typical, normal thing to do. I believe that we have 5 teachers that are on temporary assignment throughout the district, and they will be notified before the 15th that they will not be reemployed next year, and that's just a typical thing. It happened to me when I was teaching math one year, and it was a one-year job, and I got a notice. So if there's any question about it, I would like to call for the motion. Anybody?
I just want to reiterate, there is no massive layoff. There is no extensive layoff. This is a resolution regarding the release from temporary certificated positions, and they were always intended to be temporary. And so I do understand that some folks in the community are under the impression that a lot is going on. But to Mrs. Marcus's point, this is par for the course. We have to make these resolutions and decisions before March 15th. And we're just conducting business in the normal and ordinary course of business.
Thank you. Thank you. So I will call for the question. I will do a roll of that. Mr. Stewart?
Aye.
I did. Aye? I got an aye. Okay, Mrs. Manicherry?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Sabag?
Yes.
Dr. Stern?
Yes.
And Mrs. Marcus is a yes, okay? So it passes for the 5-0, okay? Thank you. All right, now the second resolution is 2024-2025-014, a resolution regarding the release from temporary certificated administration position. Again, this is a temporary job. It's not considered to be one that rolls over. How many people are we looking at here?
One position.
One position,
Yes.
okay? And it's normal to do this. Again, it is a procedure that is followed year in and year out,
Yes.
okay? Are there
Correct.
any questions about this?
Can you explain, I have a question. I think this has been answered before, but when, I know this happens.
I don't think we've had, we did not have a motion yet. I make the motion, and I need a second.
I'll second.
Who did it?
Dr. Stern?
I'll second. I had a question. When there are these yearly, around March 15th, notices, it's possible that you can get a notice, but in fact, it's rescinded if the
Yeah,
status changes, right?
Chances are it will not be rescinded until after all staffing and stuff is out. And I would defer here to Mrs.
Let us know.
Collins
Yeah.
Williams
Yes.
for this.
So what you said is correct, Dr. Stern. We are required by Ed Code to make the notice prior to March 15th.
Right.
However, if the needs of the district change, that notice can be rescinded. Generally, those happen more with the non-reelect or temporary positions, but the district can rescind any notice prior to the end of the school year, which would be June 30th.
Gotcha,
The
okay.
fiscal year, June 30th.
Gotcha, thank you.
And we have in the past.
Right.
Okay, I'll
Based
call
on
for the
needs.
question. I'll call for a roll call vote, please. Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Manicherry?
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Sabat?
Yes.
And Dr. Stern?
Yes.
And Mrs. Marcus is a yes. It passes 5-0. All right, well, that completes the open session of the meeting. We will now adjourn to closed session. It is now 2:26. And we are going to adjourn and go to closed session. Thank you very much.